Oh, my headset seems to be a little loud today. I have a coworker who's young, and that means they listen to a lot of that there rock and roll music, as they used to call it, and that means his hearing's bad. So he comes in here, he cranks the headset up. I walk in, and having grown up on just listening to my dad's country albums, I have better hearing still, even though I'm older, and I have to readjust the sound over here. Well, that's one of my medical gripes, but we're talking about some other medical issues today. Jeremy Daly is joining us from Tripp Family Medicine. He's a physician assistant. And what we do is we take an opportunity on Wednesday mornings to discuss some medical issues, but it also allows you to get a little Q&A with one of the medical pros. And first of all, Jeremy, welcome back.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
We're talking today about some issues related to skin. And you actually have an event coming up a little later a couple of weeks away at the doctor's office.
Yeah, we do. Yeah. Coming up on April 26th, that's a Wednesday. We're planning on having what we call a pill party. And, for those listening that aren't familiar with what a pill is, it's for a chemical pill. And there's quite a few different uh, chemicals, so to speak, different acids that we use that basically what we do is we help with the aging process, fine lines and wrinkles, acne, skin conditions in general. We help to improve certain levels of, as far as the thickness of certain levels of the skin and thinning other levels of the skin to make it look more cosmetically pleasing. So that's really what we have coming up, and we're excited about it. We only have a certain number of slots available, and so we wanted to get it out there. We have it on our website, and we have a big poster at the office, and we've been doing some calling of some of our clients that we've had for pills in the past. Maybe not necessarily medical patients, but people that have come in for cosmetics. And yeah, we're really excited to offer this event, and just wanted to kind of let people know what it is.
I had no idea what these things were until about 15 years ago. I was still living in Syracuse, New York, or working there. And I got out of a car one day and I saw a fellow putting some change in a parking meter. And when he turned around, it was the retired mayor of the city. And I'd known him for about 15 years at the time. And he turned around and said hi. And his face was just one great big red circle. He had had it done. And I don't remember him having a lot of issues with skin, but apparently he had something done. I wanted something removed. And that's what had happened. But his face, you could literally see a line all the way around his face too, as well. He didn't seem to be in any pain or anything else. It just was a shock to see him that way that day.
Sure. And most of the time, there isn't a whole lot of pain that goes along with chemical pills. During the pill, we apply the acid to the face, and depending on the type of acid, we use things like pyruvic acid and glycolic acid. Those are probably the most common that we use. And we put it on the face, and we let it basically do its work. And really, that's kind of irritating and so to speak, damaging the skin so that it can replace itself. It gets down to the thicker layers of the dermis, the the layers under the epidermis, or the skin that we see, and it helps to thicken those up and actually thins out the epidermis. But for the most part, amazingly, there's not a ton of pain. Maybe like a sunburn, a little bit of discomfort depending on the pill and the
For a
strength of the
few
pill
days,
for,
maybe.
yeah, for a couple of days, and maybe some Tylenol, and some topical um, calamine lotion or something like that to just help soothe the face. But other than that, it's
Is it popular among people who've suffered from acne when they were younger and maybe have some scarring? Does it remove that?
that's interesting. So those pock marks, or the scars that you get from acne, that's actually damage to the collagen. And the collagen is part of the dermal layer of the skin, and it causes a little bit of an indentation there. And when we thicken up the dermal layer of the skin, we don't necessarily make that go away. What we see is that those pock marks or scars, they flatten out. And so something that seemed like it was pretty deep will seem fairly shallow and a lot less obvious with the pills. So that's kind of the benefit. And for those who currently have problems with acne, the pyruvic acid pill is a great pill, and some of the higher level glycolic acid pills are really effective at actually managing acne.
I've got two little dots in my forehead, and they've been with me since I believe it was the second or third grade when I had chicken pox. So I'm going back close to 50 years. But these things, my daughter asked me about that one time when she was a little girl. She probably hadn't noticed, and then one day when she was about 4, she asked me what was on my forehead. Can I get rid of something like that too?
Yeah, you probably could. It would probably decrease the size. And the thing about pill systems are, you have to do it a little bit more regularly at first, and then you maintain. Over you know 3 to 4 months, we do regular pills. Sometimes every 2 weeks to start out with, then every 3 weeks, and every month, and then it's just kind of maintaining once every couple of months. We'll do the pills and help maintain that same level of thickness in the dermis and the epidermis. So yeah, that is possible, but it does take a little bit of time for it to happen.
We've got more coming up with Jeremy Daly. He's joining us from Tripp Family Medicine right here in Twin Falls, Idaho. It's 39 at 8:39, almost 8:40. And if you've got a question or comment about some issues with skincare as well, of course, feel free to give us a shout in just a few minutes. Jeremy Daly is joining us in studio. He's a physician assistant from Tripp Family Medicine here in Twin Falls, Idaho. Got a call at 8:42, and it's 41. Bill Colley with you as well. And if you've got a question, we're talking about some skin issues today, too. Uh, Not everybody out there has a lot of worries about that, but I know when I was in high school, I didn't have acne, but I had a lot of pimples. Um, Not as noticeable, obviously, if you have scars from those, right? But sometimes can still lead to some scarring.
Yeah, definitely. Usually, everyone to some extent will get a little bit of acne, either from changes in oil levels of the skin, hormone levels, a little bit of bacterial infection of the skin. What we call the P. acnes bacteria is usually the underlying cause. And, most people get some degree of that going on at some points in their life. Sometimes as adults, people will develop what we call adult onset acne, and that happens as well. So
16 was a very bad year for me.
that's a bad year for a lot of people, let's be honest.
We have a caller with us. Caller, you're up next, and you're on the air on KLIX and on Better Health.
Hi, Bill. Hi, Jeremy.
Hi.
Jeremy, I just had a little bit of a flare up and it was really painful. How about shingles?
Ooh.
I just had a little bit.
Yeah, getting a little feedback there, but that's one that, especially when you get to a certain age, it's always a concern.
Yeah, certainly. We see shingles quite a bit, and it seems like they tend to come in waves where I'll get a couple, two, three in a week, and then I won't for a while. But yeah, shingles is something that we see really often. Shingles in it is a very interesting rash, and the reason I say that is sometimes you have pain and irritation to the skin even before you get the rash. So just to kind of give you some background on shingles. So if you've been exposed to the chickenpox or the varicella virus at some point in your life, um, and even for people that have gotten the vaccine, I've seen this before. Um, there's a lot of you out there that never got the shingles vaccine. You just had the shingles party, meaning one kid on the block got it, and everyone met together and shared it. And that virus, it actually never leaves your body. Interestingly enough, it hangs out for a while, and it will hang out in a nerve root. So we see it manifest later on in life, whether it's because your immune system is down for whatever reason, and sometimes it's just a random, we don't know why, outbreak of this virus, but it has an interesting pattern. It will be along what we call a dermatomal pattern. That specific nerve root where that virus was hanging out, it will manifest right along that track, and it's usually on one side, doesn't cross the midline. I mean, most of the time we'll see it on kind of the trunk area, but I've seen it on the face. I've seen it actually infect the eye. Basically, anywhere in the body along a nerve root track, you can find a shingles outbreak. Now, what do we do when you get it? Well, there's great antiviral medications. If we catch it early on, we can actually help to reduce the symptoms, help to reduce um, the length of the infection, and decrease the time that you're actually have viral shedding going on, which means that you're contagious and you can give it to other people.
It doesn't necessarily leave you with a lot of scarring, but it can, right?
Oh yeah, I mean it can, depending on the severity of the infection. I mean, there's a lot of people that have chickenpox scars from when they're kids. The same thing can happen. some of these shingles infections get really, really bad, and they can be somewhat disfiguring actually if they're on the face. But if we catch them early, we can, like I said, kind of reduce the severity and the length of the course of the infection. But it is common. Um, Sometimes we'll even add in like a steroid or something like that just to reduce inflammation, and some topical medications and pain medication. One of the things that we worry about the most actually with shingles infections is developing what we call post-herpetic neuralgia, where you develop nerve pain after the infection. And so we're really trying to, although we want to get rid of that initial infection as quick as possible, we're trying to keep your body from having damage that's long lasting. And some people have that for months or years, that post-herpetic neuralgia. So it can be an awful thing.
We're joined in the studio by Jeremy Daly. He's a physician assistant from Tripp Family Medicine right here in Twin Falls, Idaho. It's coming up on 8:47 and it's 41. Bill Colley with you as well on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Telephone number 736-0300. Jeremy, for people who are looking to reach the office, a number of ways to do that.
Certainly, you can always give us a call at 933-4400. Come see us. We we like you to call first, but if you can't and you need help, you can come see us right across from the post office on Fillmore, um, just right in a medical plaza over there, and check out our. We have a newer website. Shouldn't say new anymore. It's been around for several months now. TrippFamilyMedicine.com, and you can find us on Facebook. So we're pretty actively, and recently we have a new Instagram account. So we're getting on the social media and getting out there and kind of letting people know what we're doing. So follow us on Facebook and Instagram and see what we're doing.
Now, we talk about skin conditions. There's one thing I brought up to you off air, and I know people don't like to talk about it a lot because they're embarrassed by it. And it's one of those things as you grow older, I think they become more common, but what are called skin tags.
Sure.
And generally they seem to develop where wearing clothes or where you might have a pinch in your clothes. And um, these things come along and they're not an issue unless you suddenly decide to go swimming publicly and then all of a sudden you don't want everybody looking at them.
Oh yeah, sure. There's I think what people would be surprised to find out is that there are so many people with skin tags. So many young people. I mean, it's not as common in younger people, but I have a lot of younger patients come in with skin tags, and they're easy to get rid of. They're something that we get rid of on a regular basis, and most often they leave very little scarring when we take them off, and usually we numb it up really good and get rid of it. Sometimes there's other methods that we use besides numbing and cutting. Sometimes we'll use liquid nitrogen, and if it's on kind of a stalk, we'll freeze that stalk and it will fall off. And so there's several ways of taking care of those. But if it's bothersome and it affects the way that you feel, and you're embarrassed to be seen, then yeah, come in. We'll take care of those. Don't have to worry about them. It's quick.
These are not necessarily life-threatening issues, but they obviously wouldn't. All of these cosmetic issues, people want to feel better about themselves, and and if you're depressed all the time, it is going to have a physiological impact. So if you've got one of these tags and it's very visible, and you need to get rid of it, just because it may not bother your friends or your neighbors or family, but when you look in the mirror, it bothers you. It's probably time to think about doing that.
Oh yeah, I think that's a great point, Bill. All of these things are not medical emergencies. They're not, medical necessity even. But I think one of the I guess modes of thinking as far as medical uh, holistic care that we subscribe to is that we want our patients to feel as good as possible, and if that means taking care of their physical appearance, I think that's important because their their self-esteem and their confidence levels and their general emotional well-being can sometimes be affected greatly by some of these cosmetic issues. So if we can help them improve their look and the way that they feel about themselves, then why wouldn't we do that if we can?
Now, I had a friend from high school I saw at a reunion some years ago who managed to still look as good, I thought, when she was 40 as she had looked in school, but she had matching warts, one on each side of her nose. And again, if you have a wart and it's on or corn on your toe, you don't think about it too much. But when your nose is how you present yourself to other people. It's the first thing that comes into the room with you, right? It's
That's sure.
and when it comes to warts, on the other hand, you really should see a professional because it could be very dangerous to try to do anything with a home remedy.
Sure, and a lot of times people they get frustrated and obviously there are some pretty powerful over-the-counter medications to take care of things like warts and skin lesions and the fact of the matter is sometimes it looks like a wart and it's not. Sometimes it looks like um, something that's totally benign and it's not. And so there's plenty of times when we see a skin lesion and it has the seeming appearance of something benign, but we'll get close to it and see some of the features and say, well, this could be a skin cancer. Take it off, and lo and behold, it is. And those things, if most of the time the skin cancers that we see that don't look scary, that are just kind of questionable, they're slow growing. They're not anything that's going to be life threatening immediately, but those are the things that I think are good to have checked out. And sometimes we say, no, that's nothing. That's a wart, or that's just a skin tag. And sometimes we say, okay, let's biopsy that because that doesn't look like we should be leaving it there.
Warts are viral too, right?
They are. Yep. So there's a lot of different kinds of it's the human papilloma virus. And so, it's the same kind of thing. You keep it with you forever. You keep it with you forever. It just stays in your body and it goes dormant. And most of the time when we treat it, we help the body recognize that particular virus and it comes in and destroys that
Now, I
that
can
virus.
remember hearing when I was young that there's a root system too, that you're killing not just the what's visible, but you're killing a root system with this.
Well, that's kind of a little bit of a misconception. So what we see a lot of times is you get um, the blood vessels actually are drawn up into the wart. So when you cut it off, or when people cut the wart off themselves, they see that there's what looks like a seed. So got to dig out the seeds. Those seeds are actually blood vessels. That's why it bleeds so much when you cut it out. But there's no seeds to the wart. I mean, it's a lot of times just as that wart starts to dome over and become enlarged, it draws blood supply into the wart itself. And so you'll see that these are very vascular things and they bleed a lot when you cut them and try to shave them off and things like that.
Now, one other aspect of skincare, I saw a post on Facebook the other day, and it comes from what actually was one of my old girlfriends. Her sister posted a photograph of herself before and after from about 6 months ago until now. But she's trying to market a particular skin cream as a sidelight to her current her other job, and showing how she's reduced the wrinkles around her eyes. Now, I don't know what she's using. I'm not really interested as a guy. We men, we don't care about growing old and
Not
growing
not as much.
right. But has she found the magic bullet, or would she be better off seeing someone like your office at your office to help out with these things?
That's a tough thing to say. I know there's a lot of good skincare products out there. Um, I what we offer, I think they're good services. They're, um, like I said, we talked about the skin pills. We do some injectable fillers like the Juvederm. We do things like Botox, which helps temporarily to take care of some of these issues. And the fact of the matter is the skin is very dynamic. It's always changing. Depending on our sun exposure, depending on the foods that we eat, all the things that we do affect our health and our skin. And so you know, there are things that can be temporarily helpful, but
This
it's,
gets
it's tough
back
to
to
say.
that notion about how it makes you feel, because the thing I've noticed about her family, and anybody who's got probably knows somebody who's got some Italian ancestry in their family, they stay youthful looking, it seems to me, for a very, very long time. So between she and her sister and her brother, they've inherited those genes, and I look at them and I don't even think that they look 55 years old, or that they look 50 years old. To me, they look like they're a lot younger. But it's a perception I think sometimes people have when they look in the mirror at themselves. Um, they think, "Gosh, I'm not as attractive as I used to be," even though, again, friends and family don't notice any difference. Uh, so sometimes it comes back to that whole psychological impact.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and some people are, you know, they really have a genetic makeup that they don't age as much. I mean, I I spent some time in the Philippines, and it was amazing to see some of the elderly women over there that looked very youthful. Very few wrinkles, very few skin changes. I mean, they looked excellent for being 80, 90-year-old women. And sometimes it's just their genetic makeup that helps them to be that way.
Or their diet culturally
Oh,
too,
I
right?
think that does have a lot to do with it, the culture, the diet. But there definitely is a good genetic component that goes along there. Now, as far as things that we can do, um, like we've been talking about the pills, and I just wanted to get back to this particular pill party just to give our listeners some information today, just about what the event includes, and really, it's a pretty awesome event. So it's going to be some refreshments, hand pill demonstrations where we actually do chemical pills to the hand. We have a lot of different medical grade products that we carry in our office that we'd like to introduce to some of our clients and patients. Um, and as far as what's included there, we have a consultation with one of the providers. We're all planning on being there to give our opinions and our some of the ideas that we think people could really benefit from. And then our nurses will be giving the chemical pills, and they've been trained to give those. And like I said, it's on Wednesday, April 26th. It's $100, which is actually a really good deal for a consultation and a chemical pill. Usually, that's the price, maybe of one pill, but usually it's a lot more than that. And so I know in Dr. Tripp's last practice, where he did some cosmetics, it was about twice that to do the pills. So it's really a marked down value. It's really great. Um, and the thing about it is, if you're not interested in it, your wife probably is.
Yes.
And if she's not interested in it, there's probably somebody in your life that could benefit from it. So it'd be a great gift for them, and something that would probably surprise them.
I wanted to point out they can just call the office if they're looking to make a reservation, right?
Absolutely. Our front desk staff is waiting to make appointments, and that's at 933-4400. So give them a call and set up the pill. And April 26th, we'll see each other and talk a little bit about these chemical pills.
Well, we want to thank Jeremy Daly for coming by today. 9 o'clock news is coming up in just around the corner. One more hour of top story too with Bill Colley on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. And got a couple of things to talk about. I referenced earlier the comments from U.S. Senator Jim Risch about fears of an attack on the electrical grid in this country. That coming up in the next hour.